Westside Decorating Center, 5789 State Street in Saginaw. Everything you need for home decorating, you'll find it at Westside Decorating Center. Stop in, visit them today. Later on, after the 10 o'clock news, Ernie Krieger will pay us a visit to help you with your appliance repairs. And on Focus today, Charlie Root will be doing the Focus program. And for this hour, we're going to spend time with a good friend talking about a very serious subject and an event coming up for them. And she is Barb Smith with the Suicide Resource and Response Network. And I have no idea if I got those in the right order. I never do. It is Resource and Response, right?
Yep, Resource and Response.
All right. Now, for those that live in a shell and don't know the story of how you got involved in it, I always like to start with it just to remind people, A, how you got involved, but B, how serious a topic it is for you.
Sure. So I got involved when my brother John, at the age of 20, took his life. And that was like almost 40 years ago. And that's when no one talked about suicide. It was very much a stigma. So our family tended to struggle and suffer alone. At that point, we started a support group and now have become a training network.
And you have expanded, greatly.
Yes, we have.
How many folks work with you on that?
We are actually a team of 4. We could probably use 4 more people, but we have a lot of volunteers that help with our special events. But we are a team of 4.
Yeah, even that in itself, though, is scary that this topic needs that many people or more to help with it. Yeah, it's sort of twofold, right? So the need for our team is because we are doing a lot of trainings and education, so the upstream of prevention. Last year we delivered 101 trainings or 100 trainings to 16,000 people. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then our walk coming up takes a big team. We host multiple events. So a lot of it's upstream, but the aftercare is, really the painful part. So when you talk about training people, what are you training them for? Well, we train to deal with people who have suffered it, or how to know how to prevent it. Prevention. So we do both. So the prevention efforts is we teach people different, depending on the time we're allotted, to recognize a concern for suicide, how to ask the question in a safe way, and then how to connect them to resources or to be that person on how to keep someone safe and really get them through the crisis to not just surviving life, but thriving. It's an interesting thing you said there about the right way. Yeah. Because in my mind, and as someone who's never had to deal with it directly, I'd almost be afraid to ask because I might trigger it. Does that make sense? It makes sense because a lot of people believe that. It's a myth that what we know is asking the question does not put the idea in their mind, but it makes you that safe person that, I'm willing to hear, I'm willing to listen, which is also about prevention. So asking the right way just means I care, I'm concerned, and I want to help. So let me take you back 40 years to your brother's tragic demise. Were there any signs? In hindsight, there were a lot of signs. But always in hindsight. Always in hindsight, almost always in hindsight. So, yeah, there's not for everyone, but majority of people, if we go back to their story, we see behavior changes. They might say something, he wasn't sleeping at all. He was listening to a lot of sad songs. His girlfriend broke up with him. He had gotten laid off from his job, so he had a lot of... So it piled on. Just all piled on, yeah. So one thing in itself probably wouldn't have, triggered a thought of suicide, but, at age 20, it was a lot. Have psychiatrists or psychologists studied this to the point where they can identify why it triggers one person to do that and another not to? The only word we're coming up with is their perception. Their perception of their life in that moment. You've had loss, I've had loss, we did not take our life, but for other individuals, after a death of a family member, suicide becomes their way to deal with it. So sometimes when your coping skills don't match your life challenges, you don't know how else to deal with it. It's interesting and it's sad. And the reality is, I can never put myself in the shoes of someone who's thinking about it or doing it because I don't do it. That's a good thing, right? But
it always seemed to me, and this is the observer looking from the outside in, mm-hmm. that taking your own life doesn't allow you to be around to see the benefit that you're trying to obtain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. For some people who do it in an angry way or vindictive way, we always say, they don't get to see the outcome of the people that are hurt or, impacted. But suicide is really about ending your pain. It's not always about ending your life. And then as survivors of suicide loss, we say the pain that they end now begins to those of us left behind. It sort of transfers.
Well, that's what happens, exactly.
It's exactly what happens.
I mean, it's the same thing that happens. My wife passed away suddenly a year and a half ago, and that was painful.
Yeah, yeah. And you take on her responsibilities. You take on the emotion of the loss of love, loss of future, loss of goals,
and you have to deal with your other loved ones who are part of the family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of pain for a lot of people, but suicide does not have to be an option for anyone because there's always other ways to deal with, whether it's a mental health issue or family challenges or finances. But, oftentimes people who struggle with their own mental health, they just get tired. They get tired of medications and surviving and waking up gloom and doom every day. But, with the right treatment, medications, counseling, we see people live very successful lives, quality of lives.
So I have to ask this question, Barb. With all of the talk about suicide and mental health, trying mm-hmm. to get over the stigmas of mental health, have we made any progress in reducing suicide?
Well, that's sort of a hard question. Yes, we did. In 2020, we reduced suicides a lot, but during a major crisis, suicide rates historically do decrease. But a year following a mass tragedy, oftentimes suicide rates increase. And last year, 2022, actually, was the highest rates of suicide. But, we have to really understand that we've removed a lot of the stigma, but what we need to do is teach people what to do when they do come forward, like how to help the person when they do come forward.
That's so contrary to me. I mean, the fact that we go into a crisis, and I assume we're talking about COVID and the pandemic, mm-hmm. and we reduce the suicide rate. Uh-huh. We come out of the pandemic when things are improving and it increases. I don't understand that.
That's a simple question, actually. So if you think about during COVID, think about all the people that checked in on you, people that sent cards and people sent to me food. And, I spent more time with my grandkids via FaceTime, mm-hmm. playing video games and reading books. And, we had time for each other. And oftentimes with suicide, people feel very much alone, right? So if in major crisis, I had so many people checking in on me, which was odd, right? Because I'm usually the caregiver.
Yeah.
It was interesting. So the tables had turned. But I also spent more time with my own kids, checking in on them, talking to them hours a day. And now it might be a week. And I'm like, oh, I forgot to call my kid. So even with your neighbors, think about the times that we all were kind to each other. And suicide prevention isn't that simple, but it really can be. Because suicide can grow out of isolation and darkness.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break, come back. One of the things that Barb's organization is doing is a big walk coming up. We'll tell you about that. We'll talk more about it when we return here on the Art Lewis Show. And let me take a moment to talk about Quick Lane Freeland next to McDonald Ford. Quick Lane Freeland is your one-stop for all of your routine maintenance. You need an oil change, you need battery, maybe you need tires. You can find it at Quick Lane Freeland. The other thing they have is a product called FrigiFresh. This is a hospital-grade disinfectant that they put in your car's ventilation system. It kills germs, odors, pollen, mold, keeps you safe in the cabin of your car. It's called FrigiFresh. Takes 10 minutes, only costs $20. You don't need an appointment. You can just drive in and ask for FrigiFresh at Quick Lane Freeland on M47, right next to McDonald Ford. And remember this, too, about Quick Lane Freeland. Even though it's part of the McDonald Ford family, they work on all makes and models of cars to keep your car or truck in tip-top shape. Quick Lane Freeland. Stop in today.
It could be the best years.
And we're back with you on the Art Lewis Show. In studio with me is Barb Smith. And Barb, of course, is with the Suicide Response and Resource Network. And one of the things you need to do, of course, is raise money.
Yes.
It does take money to do all this.
Yes.
One of the things you do is a big walk. It's coming up this weekend, isn't it?
Yes. This is actually our 22nd year. It is Sunday, August 4th at Saginaw Valley State University.
And where do you walk? Just around the campus? Is there?
Yep. We start at the courtyard near the football field, and then we just walk a loop around the campus. So there is a 5K, which is a 3-mile walk run, and there's also a 1-mile loop. So it's not a timed one. So the runners will be released first, and then the walkers immediately behind them.
And what time does all that start?
8:30 is check-in or on-site registration. We have about 40 vendor tables, so they can visit all the tables, different resources. And then the opening statements begin at 10 o'clock, and 10:30 the run and walk begins.
And I know that you have speakers and things that go along with this.
So we have former State Representative Ken Horn. He's going to be talking about the Saginaw Medical Diamond, as well as his own personal tragedy and surviving as a family. So he's going to really bring some of the Diamond story from both the Diamond Center as well as, how do we find life? And our theme is Stronger Than the Storm. So we're going to reflect on that as well.
When do those speeches take place?
Those were from 10 till 10:30. So I will do opening statements, and then Ken Horn will do his statements, and then we will have a survivor sharing their testimony. We will have someone singing the national anthem, and then the run walk begins.
So this is all before the walk.
Yep. So 8:30 is really check-in at 8:30. 10 o'clock, all the speakers begin, but from 8:30 till 10, there's 40 vendor tables, there's snacks, things like that, live music, raffle tickets. It's really, I just think it's a fun time. It really is a good time. We're anticipating anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500. Yeah, 1,200 to 1,500 people.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And how do you make money on this?
So we encourage people to go online to srrn.net, sign up for the walk, encourage people to sponsor their team or themselves. So my team is called Team Flutterbuys. And
Beg your pardon?
Team Flutterbuys, which is crazy, right? Started 22 years ago. My niece struggled with bipolar. Also, she loved butterflies, but she was little and couldn't say butterflies. So she'd call them Flutterbuys. So I don't know. We named it that team. It's been that team. Some people name it after their loved ones. Team Tanner, Tan the Man. So you name your team, you ask people to join it, you ask people to donate and sponsor you. So our goal is to raise enough money to sustain all of our programs. It is not required to fundraise. However, it's such a beautiful day, great activities. Anything that anyone can donate is helpful.
So let's talk about some of the programs you offer, besides helping people who find themselves in the unfortunate situation of having a family member or a friend who commits suicide. What programs are offered by your organization?
So we have multiple programs. So the trainings is really what we promote a lot. So our goal is to do about 103, 105 trainings this coming year. So the trainings are prevention efforts. We do a lot of aftermath. So we run a support group for anyone who has been impacted by suicide. So we meet twice a month for that. And that meeting, we're the second longest running support group in Michigan, which is kind of cool. We go out to the community after a death by suicide. We have something called a loss team. So myself or we have 7 trained people. So if you lost a spouse, another spouse, and myself will come to your home to help your family navigate the early hours and days of the death. I'm also on the Governor's Suicide Prevention Commission. So I'm on representing local, state wide initiatives. We also have we lead the Suicide Prevention Regional Suicide Prevention Coalition. So Saginaw Bay, Midland, Mount Pleasant, Isabella County, Bay Aranac, we're all represented. We come to a table and look at what can we do in the schools, in the county, in the community to help prevent suicide. So we spearhead that regional coalition as well.
Have we seen a reduction in suicides in teenagers? young people?
We have not. We have seen an increase in attempts, which is very sad. Previously, almost always it has older population was the highest rate of suicide, 65 and older. And then for about 3 years, it went to middle-aged males, and now we are going back to older population die by suicide more than any age group.
Do we know why?
Well, if we think about suicide is really sort of the outcome from someone who feels alone and isolated. And, oftentimes with the older population, kids are grown, possibly their spouse has died, they're retired, don't really have their purpose, medical issues coming, starting to, our bodies are breaking down. So I think sometimes it's severe. Yeah, we get that, don't we? It's like,
we know that one.
We go to our class reunion. How you doing? Oh, I had knee replacement.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think part of it is feeling alone and what's my purpose. So a lot of our youth are having the same issues. A lot of the studies are showing our teens, when they do a study, it's coming back saying that our teens feel disconnected and no sense of purpose. So let's think about how we can change that as adults.
I wonder if bullying plays a part.
Bullying plays a part. We call things like that contributors. Like there's not one thing. So there's not one cause, but there's a lot of contributors.
So when you sit down with a group of parents who have not had suicide in their family, what do you tell them to look for?
We talk to them about looking for kids isolating, staying in their rooms, dropping out of sports, really bad attitudes, anger issues, self-medicating, talking about nobody cares about me, they wouldn't care if I was here. So a lot of times our teens are talking about it, they're posting it on social media. And so we encourage parents to take it serious, to really, I guess I say the kids need to come out of their bedrooms. They need to come out of the basement. They need to have family time. They need to bike ride. They need to have purpose, get involved.
It's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost seems like it's the same signs for drug use, for example, because, we're killing them with fentanyl instead of purposely taking their life. They accidentally do it. The result's the same.
The result's the same. And we know that people who are substance users have about 16% higher suicide rate than general population. So they are self-medicating with death, knowing death could be the outcome. Yes.
It's just, it's scary.
It's really sad. It's really sad, but I'm hopeful that the more we train people, the more we educate, the more we get parents to get involved. And I'm not saying this is a parent issue. I'm not blaming parents. But what I'm saying is when you see your child struggling, try not to just give them their own space. There's only so much space people need to be alone. And then we have to move it to getting involved. So, we talked about your grief and like how busy you are this week. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Everyone should be busy with work-life balance, right?
Purpose.
Very purposeful. And a lot of people have lost purpose. A lot of people have lost goals. And I think we have to go back to some of those basics is, let's teach our kids how to self-regulate. Let's teach them how to get involved and to find purpose.
All right, we'll take a break, come back and talk more with Barb Smith from the Suicide Resource and Response Network, and we will have more after these notes.
Do you know that air duct cleaning...
All right, we're back with you, talking to Barb Smith from the Suicide Resource and Response Network. I'm chuckling because we can't tell you about our conversations during the break.
We solved life's problems, didn't we?
So I have to go back to this topic because it does concern me. What you say to someone who you suspect is contemplating taking their own life, and how do you do it in such a way so as to not trigger it?
So we wouldn't be asking someone just out of the blue, right? You'd be asking them because you noticed something about them. And when someone is struggling with life and they walk around feeling no one notices, no one cares. So you start off by saying, you know what? I'm going to call him Sam. You know what, Sam? I've noticed lately that you're not smiling the way that you used to. You're drinking more. I've never known you to just be so angry all the time. And I'm really concerned about you. And when you posted that you can't take it anymore, I'm wondering if you're thinking about suicide.
You come right out and ask.
Yeah. But you ask, like, tell them all the reasons why you're asking first. So that lets that person know that I noticed you. I cared enough to ask you this question. So if you think about it, Art, like if somebody was having a heart attack, right, and they're sort of slurring their words, or they're sweating, or they're grabbing their shoulder, or they're telling you, my chest hurts, you'd say, you know what, that sounds like a heart attack. Are you okay? Should we call someone? It's about life or death. It's the same thing with suicide. If you see a symptom of or behavior of, we should address it and find out, is this about suicide or is this about something else?
And a lot of times it's about something else.
Yeah, sometimes they might say, you know what, actually I didn't tell you, but my grandma died and I'm just really sad and I have to deal with a funeral. You know what I mean?
And we all have downer days.
Yeah, we all have down days, but what that does is, even if it's wrong, what you just said to that person is, I still noticed you and I'm a safe person if you ever want to talk to me. That's it. It tells the individual someone cares, even if it's not about suicide.
Do you ever attack it through someone else? In other words, maybe you don't have the kind of communication with the person that you need to have, but you still need to get to that person. Is it okay to use someone else to go in?
Of course. Yeah, a lot of kids, we encourage them to use their school counselors or their coaches to say, I'm really worried about so-and-so. You know what? He wrote something to me. He posted something. So, or workplace, if you have HR, like HR supervisor, someone that you trust. Sometimes when my kids were younger, my kids would tell me, and I'd go right to the parents and say, look, we're worried about so-and-so. This is what they said. And it was good. They never ended a friendship. So it's okay to go to someone else that could do a better job or a different job.
And every now and then, even though suicide itself is tragic, good comes from it. By that I mean, if we go back to the Saginaw Spirit, Terry Trafford, who committed suicide, out of that, through your efforts and others, came a literally international program for suicide prevention. Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, yeah, so what we say is suicide changes you, but it does not have to destroy you. So sometimes for our survivors, like, well, there's nothing good that comes out of it. But what I'll say is, but we had change because it happened. And with Terry Trafford's, we are doing suicide prevention, mental health awareness night. Every league in the OHL is required to have a mental health awareness night. And we are one of the biggest. So I'm very proud of that. We do a great night at the Spirit hockey game. And then they also have to train all of their billet families. Their players and their staff are all trained in suicide prevention.
And that's across the CHL, not just the OHL.
That's correct. Yeah. That's across CHL. So we learn from our past. And really no one did anything wrong with Terry. It just happened. But what we can do is be much more alert.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a tragic event, just a series of things that seemed to put more and more pressure on him.
Yeah.
But yet you wouldn't have suspected that was going to happen.
That's correct. I mean, a lot of our players get cut. A lot of our players go home, and that doesn't happen. So that was Terry's perception of his life in that moment. And I don't know if you heard, but Craig Gosselin tells a beautiful story, our general manager. President, and he brought in two players who actually took the Safe Talk training that we offer, learned the tools on how to ask the question, and they were coming home from a charity event that they had done or some helping that they had volunteerism. They seen someone standing on the bridge. They used their tools that they were trained in and talked the individual off the side of the bridge.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the stories I hear all the time. People that take the training, they'll email me, text me, call me and say, you're not going to believe this. I never would have asked the question. I did. And the individual said yes, and we got them some help. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah, that's the good part.
And if anybody needs help, just remember that they can call 988, the 24-hour crisis line. It's non-emergency instead of 911. If they call 988, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's individuals that actually, they do take one of our assist trainings from around the state, and they are trained in talking to the individual. Very few times do they call police. Sometimes they have to, but very few times. The rest of the time is they just really help just to be a listener.
We used to call it talking down. Is that what it is?
Talking down. Very similar. Yep.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our last break, come back, and conclude our conversation. We'll tell you again about the walk for the Suicide Resource and Response Network.
Resource and Response, yeah.
Thank you, I got it.
Thanks.
We'll be back.
All roads lead to the...
All right, we're back with you as we are chatting with Barb Smith from the Suicide Resource and Response Network, reminding you of their big walk coming up this weekend. Again, when?
Sunday, August 4th at Saginaw Valley State University.
Registration beginning at 8:30 in the morning. So who's going to be there?
So former state representative Ken Horn, he's going to be talking about his life, like sort of tragedy his family experienced and really being resilient and surviving. Also, we are very hopeful that he's going to be talking about the Saginaw Medical Diamond, because that's where there's going to be a mental health facility, top-notch in the state of Michigan. And we're really excited to bring that to our Great Lakes Bay region. I think that's going to be a hope message for all people, right, at our event. So, and then Eric Hippel's going to be there. He's going to be there with the Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Lion.
Yep, former Detroit Lion. He's going to be there in the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan tents. So if you have a football you want signed, you have a jersey you want signed, just bring it over, and Eric be happy to sign that for you. Kevin Fisher is going to be in the group, and he is he's the president of NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, for the state of Michigan. He is amazing. So he'll be there in a booth as well. We have a raffle going on. We have, hotel nights. We have iPads, earbuds, all kinds of really cool things, kids' bikes, lots of raffle going on. So it is untimed. It is family friendly. I do want to say that no pets invited, only because it's always hot out. There's 1,500 people. It's a safety issue for your furry pets and our participants. So only service dogs. Yes, just registered service dogs, please. But other than that, we've got live music going on, the raffles going on. It's really a good time to walk in, feel connected, and feel cared for.
And this is at Saginaw Valley State University. And where on the university campus?
So if they just drive back, there'll be signs all over the football field. So it's going to start in the courtyard right where the football field is. You're going to come in where the ticket booth is. I think it's parking lot C. You'll get an email in. We do encourage everyone to pre-register on srrn.net, srrn.net. Please pre-register. We want to always make sure we have enough bananas, I always say, and peanuts, right? Because we have snacks. And, we usually have about 300 people show up at the door. That's a lot of extra waters and food. So the more people that pre-register, it also gives people the opportunity of talking about their loved one online, right? You start a team, you get to share pictures, you get to share their stories with more people. You can send it out to others, and it really connects people that you're not alone.
Are the support groups, and how important are the support groups? Let me put it that way.
Our support group, I feel, is very valuable. So when we go on scene or we go on site with families, they get to have a lot of our time, like individual. It's not therapy, but it's support. When they come to support group, they get to hear from other moms and dads and spouses and siblings. And we have around 20 to 25 people that come to our groups right now. And they get to hear how others have survived. They talk about anger, blame, guilt, and how did they get through it, and, what do we do with it? And a lot of my survivors, I call my survivors, they're not mine. However, they are my inspiration. They're the reasons why I do a lot of the prevention work. But support group is very valuable. People do have to call us first before coming to the group. I just want to make sure that we're a good fit for them.
And what's that number?
989-781-5260. 989-781-5260. And if someone needs help signing up for the walk, they can call that number and prompt 1, and Ann will be there to help sign them up, help them navigate the, registration.
Tell us again about 988.
988 is a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a federal phone line. It's for suicide and crisis. So it doesn't even have to be suicide. It can be domestic. It can be runaways. It can be just struggling with your mental health. It can be any crisis that is important to you. The individual on the other line will talk you through it, talk you down, as you said, and really connect you to other resources. But most importantly, they'll be a listener.
trained in what they do, I assume.
They're all trained in multiple levels. When people call, I want to caution them that they will hear music first, which if you're anxious, I'm not listening to music, elevated music. But the reason for the music is it gives them a pause to route you to the closest operator. So you know, whether it's California or Ohio or Michigan.
They know where you're calling from, so they try and
route you to the closest operator. And then there's a prompt for veterans, LGBTQ+, and Native Americans, and Hispanic, Spanish speaking. So there's multiple prompts that people can choose from. So if you only want to speak to that specific person or population, that gives you that opportunity as well.
It's interesting, sad but interesting, that in a population where we assume strength, military, police,
yes,
high rates of suicide.
Yes. There's actually a phone line for law enforcement and first responders. They have a group called Frontline Strong. It's phenomenal, FST5.org. It's for corrections, EMS, dispatchers, firefighters, and it's for the 5 groups that can actually call in that number and go online, and they'll help them specifically. It's retired first responders and or families of first responders that are trained. So we're working really hard to meet everyone's needs, but in our group, we can help anyone at any time connect to resources, be the listener. We are not a crisis line, but we are a helpline.
And there are a lot of resources out there, aren't there?
Yeah, 211 is another phone number. So 911 is emergency. 988 is for crisis around mental health. And then 211 is our nonprofit for housing, food, electrical.
It's a referral.
It's a referral, just like the old Yellow Pages, right? Or the old Google site. But you can call and they will talk to you and they will meet your needs. So they will connect you to resources in your community that can help decrease your stress.
All right. Well, Barb, thanks for coming in. Good luck with the walk.
Yeah, please join us at the walk Sunday, August 4th. We want to come together to raise awareness and funds to help prevent suicide and to care for people impacted. We'll see you then.
All right. Barb Smith from the Suicide Resource and Response Network. We thank you for joining us. We will take a break and then come back and close out this hour and tell you what's ahead.
1978. What a great...
Thank Barb Smith for being with us today. Coming up next hour, Ernie Krieger's going to join us. Before we're going to talk to Ernie, but we're also going to have a special guest for a few minutes up front. It has to do with potatoes, not necessarily the Potato Festival, but she makes soap out of potatoes. We're going to find out about that. All of that is coming up after the news from CBS and Michael Percha in the WSGW newsroom with the local report. We'll be back to talk with you right after the news.
Broadcasting from the
statement, former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama said they agree with President Biden that choosing Harris was the best decision he's made, and they said they would do everything they can to elect her as the next president of the United States. Harris said it means so much to have their support and is ready to get to work. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Washington.
California's largest wildfire of the year has now doubled in size as it tears through Butte County, burning down homes and businesses, and we're learning more about the man accused of setting it. CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti is in Chico.
Investigators believe the fire was started by 42-year-old Ronnie Stout, who witnesses say pushed a flaming car down a 60-foot embankment.
And then he got out of the car, kind of looked at it, and when I turned back, he was gone.
He's now in custody, facing arson charges.
2 men accused of orchestrating the flow of massive amounts of cocaine and fentanyl into the U.S. are under arrest. CBS's Earl Barnett.
The Justice Department arrested 2 of the most powerful leaders of the notorious Mexican drug cartel. Ismael El Mayo Zambada, a longtime leader of the Sinaloa cartel, and Joaquin Guzman Lopez, the son of drug lord El Chapo, were taken into custody in El Paso, Texas yesterday.
A ruling just in from Nebraska in a lawsuit brought by the ACLU. The state Supreme Court has upheld a law restricting access to medical care for transgender youth and abortion. The ACLU argued legislative bills have to stick to a single subject. This may be true.
At Boar's Head, we live for delicious.
But the company is recalling all of its liverwurst products because of possible listeria contamination. 2 deaths have been reported. Dow's up 562 points. Nas ahead 115. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Get renter's insurance to protect the things that make your place a home, including coverage for theft or damage. Visit Progressive.com.
Live from the 100.5 and 790 newsroom, this is WSGW News.
Sunny skies and 73 degrees at 10:05. Good morning, I'm Mike Percha. A Caseville man was convicted of raping a young girl on Wednesday. 47-year-old Corey Kessler was accused of sexually touching and sexually assaulting the child, who was a relative of his, for 6 years, starting when the child was 4 years old. A jury found Kessler guilty of 10 counts each of first and second-degree criminal sexual conduct after only an hour's deliberation. He will be sentenced on September 30th. He faces up to life in prison. The Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or MIOSHA, is investigating the death of a laborer at an Alma worksite. According to WNEM TV5, the accident happened Tuesday when a 25-year-old was attempting to install a rigging strap to move a large wooden beam structure for installation when the beam struck the person, killing them. MIOSHA reports it as the 15th workplace fatality this year, following 36 fatalities last year across Michigan. The death was reported to the administration and is believed to be covered by the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Act. My Michigan Health has announced a new Vice President of Facilities and Construction. Dan Sheffer currently serves as VP of Operations for Ascension St. Mary's, Ascension St. Joseph, and Ascension Standish Hospitals. He has the responsibility of overseeing rehabilitation, facilities, construction, capital planning, neurodiagnostics, sleep lab, clinical engineering, and many more services. He earned a Master of Physical Therapy from Grand Valley State University and has worked for Ascension for 24 years. He served as co-incident commander during the Ascension cyber attack that occurred in May, as well as sitting on the incident command teams during the COVID-19 pandemic and the Edenville dam break and flooding in 2020. He's also a board member for the Saginaw County Chamber of Commerce, the Great Lakes Bay Regional Alliance, and the Michigan Health Improvement Alliance. He'll begin his new position at My Michigan Health starting August 1st. WSGW News Time, 10:07.
All roads lead to the...
WSGW News Time, 10:08. The weather forecast is coming up. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel is asking FEMA to change its disaster declarations to cover damage from wildfire smoke. Nessel and a coalition of 14 other attorneys general are requesting the updated regulation, which would also include covering damage from extreme heat. Nessel says the health of Michiganders has been jeopardized since smoke from Canadian wildfires has started blanketing the sky. Funeral services will be held today for the Melvindale police officer killed in the line of duty. Hundreds came to the city of Dearborn for a viewing ceremony of Officer Mohammed Saeed last night. Here's Darylyn Horn with the report.
Only an officer for just a year. On Thursday night, mourners walked in and out of the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center to say their final goodbyes, including some of his family members from Yemen.
When I heard the news, I felt like a thunder from the sky just struck me in the heart, and something that I could not believe until this moment.
And people from the Melvindale community he went to high school with.
He was a son, he was a cousin, he was a brother, and he was a fiance. There was so much, but definitely remember him by his name.
Darylyn Horn for the Michigan News Network.
Get ready for a show in the sky. The annual Perseid meteor shower is about to hit the peak in Michigan. The shower started in mid-July and is set to peak August 11th and 12th, then end later next month. During the peak, more than 200 meteors could be visible every hour. NASA says the Perseid meteor shower is the best one of the year. WSGW News Time, 10:10. I'm Mike Percha.
5789 State Street in Saginaw, our sponsor. Stop in, visit them for all of your home decorating needs. A busy hour this hour because we're going to hear from Terry Henney, who's out at the Tuscola County Fair. We'll find out what's going on out there. Also, we are expecting a call from a young gal by the name of Lindsay Ross who makes potato soap. And that ooh.
Potato soap
belongs to the other guy with us this morning, the one and the only, thank goodness, Ernie Krieger.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Lots of sunshine.
Yeah. So if you have any questions about appliance repair, if you've got a major appliance that's not doing its thing, Ernie will either point you in the right direction for making it whole again, or throw it overboard as a boat anchor.
In most cases, lightly.
By goodness. How, we've probably talked about this many times before, but how has the industry that you serve changed?
Oh, back in the day, we fixed things.
That's an interesting comment.
And in today's world, most of the repairs are very hard to justify. The only thing that causes problems is in refrigeration. We went from paying $500 to $600 for a refrigerator that would run 0 degrees in the freezer and 38 in the refrigerator to spending $3,200 for a refrigerator that still runs 0 in the freezer and 38 in the refrigerator section.
Does it last as long?
No.
Oh, so we pay 4 times as much for half the life.
Exactly. And a cute story. We had a big family reunion, and 5 minutes before everybody starts to come in, my wife goes to open the door on the microwave, and all of a sudden it's like bzzz, and everything goes dead. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. And this is a custom-built microwave that we put into the cabinets.
In your house?
In my house. So we go through the party, we go through Sunday, we get into Monday. It's like, all right, I go on. I know it's a control board. So I go in. It's like, oh, no parts available. No parts available.
For your own.
No parts available. It's like, what the hell? And then we go in, and my wife opens the door on the microwave. She says, well, that microwave's 31 years old.
Don't call the show.
It served us well.
Well, that's good. All right. Speaking of callers, we have one. This is Dave in Birch Run. You're on with Ernie Krieger. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Oh, excellent. Good. What can we do for you?
I have a Whirlpool side-by-side refrigerator freezer. It was made in 2014.
Okay.
Everything has worked fine except for the lights, which I had to replace because they were flashing, but that was no big deal. My question is this. On the freezer side, I've developed like a skim of ice at the very bottom. It's leaking some way, somehow. Trying to figure out what's going on or what can I do, if anything.
Yeah, you probably have a drain that's been plugged up. And so what happens is when this thing goes into a defrost cycle, instead of the water going out into the pan by the compressor where it would evaporate, it's starting to back up down on the floor. Is that where you're seeing the ice?
It's on the floor of the freezer.
Yes.
Not on my kitchen floor, but yeah, the floor
Correct.
of the freezer.
At some point, that ice is going to grow, and then you're going to wake up one morning, and you're going to have water on the floor because there's no place for it to go. So what you're going to end up doing is I would probably tell you to get some coolers so you can put your food into it. You're actually going to take the back wall off inside that freezer section, and then you're going to see a set of coils, and below those coils is going to be like an aluminum pan that the water would normally leak out of. And so with a baster, you're going to get in and you're going to flush that out.
No, is there a drain?
Yeah.
Hole? Is that what yeah.
And in some cases, what you can do, you got to be careful on how much water you push down through there, because that pan only holds so much. And you'll have a situation where it's going to leak on the floor, and if it's wood floors, it's not good.
Okay, so the back panel sounds a little ominous without having looked at it yet, but how big of a panel? Are we talking the up and down, the whole length of the freezer? Or?
It could be, but most of the time it's only going to be maybe about 2.5 feet in height. So as you're looking in there, you're going to see screws down both sides, and there will be a break point where probably there's some lights.
Okay.
So
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I would say if you push it, about a 4-beer job.
Let me ask this: if you took the food out of the refrigerator and the freezer, all right?
Yes.
And you unplugged the
Yeah.
Yep. And
how long?
It'll be a while, and eventually that ice is going to melt. But what happens is whatever was restricting the water and allowing it to freeze, it'll just do it again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So your best bet is to get in there and flush it out with a baster.
Okay, sounds good. Have a great weekend, guys.
Yeah, you too,
Dave.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.
Take care. Bye.
It's, when you say flush it out, I mean, you use that baster and you put pressure on it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just going to blow it out?
Exactly. And then if he does take the time to pull the unit away from the wall, and then he'll see a bottom panel. If he takes that panel off, he's going to see where the compressor is and the condenser and the fan, and he should be able to identify where the drain tube is. It's called a P-trap. And that's usually where you get the crud that builds up, and then the water slowly backs up into the freezer.
So that refrigerator freezer is 10 years old. He takes the back off. Should he also be cleaning the coils and stuff while he's got it off?
Well, I would hope that he'd see 10 years of, if he has pets, pet hair, or just normal dirt that accumulates on those coils. So like everybody that's out there that's got a refrigerator a couple years old, it's always good to check that condenser and make sure it's kept clean.
Excellent.
There you go.
Excellent. Is that true of all the manufacturers? Work pretty much the same?
Yeah.
Things may be in different places, but
very few refrigeration systems have condensers on the back like we used to. They used to have what we called a set of bed springs that were on the back side. They're all now down, mostly accessible from the back. You still have a few manufacturers that will have the coils underneath the refrigerator so you can pull the kick plate off and get in there. Usually I'll say if you don't have a condenser brush to clean those coils, you can use a baby bottle brush, tape it to a yardstick so you get a little extra length on it.
Is one position more efficient than the other?
No, it's just the convenience of how they put the unit together.
Not the convenience of how you take it apart.
That's exactly right. But you want to make sure the unit's turned off so that when you're back and forth with the brush that you don't engage that fan back there and end up busting a fan blade.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll also hear from Terry Henney out in Tuscola. All of that is ahead this morning.
Travel tips with Peter Greenberg.
Everybody, what a beautiful day to be outside. This we could have all summer long. Temperatures working their way up into the low 80s and lower humidities, and we are at a county fair. We're at the Tuscola County Fair. This is the 143rd annual fair. It goes through Saturday. Today is a very special day for a lot of the young people in Tuscola County. It's the 4-H and FFA Youth Auction Sale that's underway right now. It's a great opportunity for you to support the young people of the area. So if you're not too far away, might be a good idea to just slip around. Over the next couple of hours or so, we're going to have a chance to talk to some people involved with the auction and maybe even talk to a couple of the young people that are showing animals. Our program is brought to you today by the folks at the Frankenmuth Credit Union, a proud sponsor of the Tuscola County Fair. Frankenmuth is awarding $10,000 in grants to over 133 applicants who raised animals for their county fairs. A lot more coming up, again, as we broadcast from Caro.
The W.
All right, we are back with you. In studio with me is Ernie Krieger from Ernie Krieger Appliance Service. And we leave off the parts now because you're out of that business. Because what happened to the parts industry?
Well, internet. I guess that's the best way to put it. Part of the problem that we were faced with was the cost to have an employee sitting there spending 15 to 20 minutes going through what part needs to be replaced, or I spend a half an hour on the phone, only to have the situation where, well, geez, I can get it $5 cheaper on the internet. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, but this is, suggested retail from our distributors. And after that happening over and over and over, it was best for us to cut those ties, which was tough for me to do, but it was the right thing.
And that's parts sales to the
Correct.
general public.
Parts sales.
You still have to get parts for all the repairs you do, right?
That's correct.
Is it difficult today?
On control boards, it can be a little bit of a hassle. And we find on stuff that's maybe 6 or 7 years old with control boards, it could still be a hassle. But there is a company out there called CoreCentric. So if you have a control board that you're told is no longer available, you can go online and check your model number and see if CoreCentric has the ability to rebuild that board, which we've done on a number of ranges that are built in, and they'd have to change their whole kitchen versus sending that board in and having it rebuilt and then reinstalling it. So there is still some life for that part of it.
I mean, are even the simplest of appliances computer controlled today?
Yes. Yeah. It's tough to find a washer that has all, we'll call it manual type controls.
Mechanical.
Yeah, mechanical. And what we'll find is the washer may look like it's mechanical, but there's a control board somewhere in there.
That's probably like my amount at home. It's got big knobs.
Yeah. And the other thing that's been changed with our motors now, most of our motors, like in dishwashers and stuff, they're all DC motors. They're not AC like we had in the past. So they're a lot more energy efficient, but it relies on communications between a number of different components so that machine works.
Yeah, well, you have to have some kind of transformer or device to convert the AC.
Our motors and our refrigerators are variable speed, and they're talking back and forth to different components. If it's not hitting the right speed, it's telling it by the control board, and the board says, well, there's a problem here. And
why do we need different speeds in a refrigeration motor?
Depending on the temperatures. And again, they want these things to be a lot more energy efficient, like our compressors are variable speed. So sometimes it may start off at 800 RPMs and ramp all the way up to 2,000. Just depends on the load and what the temperatures are. So if the unit has come out of a defrost cycle and the air temp's warmed up a little bit inside, it's going to want to get that temp back down to zero as quick as possible. Whereas if the unit has just now cycled off and nobody's in the house, it doesn't need to come back on in 15 to 20 minutes.
If I bought, we'll pick anyone. If I bought a refrigerator 10 years ago and bought one today, refrigerant the same?
No. 10 years ago, it was still R134A. Today, it's some type of a butane that they're using. And the charge back 10 years ago could have been 8 to 10 ounces, and now we're talking 4 or less. The efficiency of today's new refrigerants are I guess I would say, are better than we had with 134. And then when it comes to air conditioners and dehumidifiers, there's a number of different refrigerants that you may find, which makes, having a sealed system issue in most refrigerations is a kiss of death,
Yeah. Got Kevin in Saginaw with us. Kevin, good morning. You're on with Ernie Krieger.
How you doing today?
Good.
We're good. What's up?
Well, two things. I wanted to say thanks to Mr. Krieger. He wouldn't remember me from Moses, but a long time ago he comes.
He
to my
might
house
remember Moses. He's old enough.
I'm sitting across from Moses.
I had a Whirlpool Neptune.
Oh, yeah.
Maytag Neptune washer, and the bearing went out of it. And Ernie's, even been him. And he was the most honest guy. He said it's going to cost more to fix this than to replace it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was perfect advice. That bearing was ungodly, and Ernie said that he had to buy a specific tool to get the bearing out.
Yeah.
So it was a nightmare. And he was totally honest. Man, I appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Secondly, I wondered Ernie's opinion on everybody talks about appliances now are disposable.
Yep.
I don't know if they just don't last like they used to, but they cost twice as much. But similar to cars, they're just disposable now. I wondered your thoughts on that.
Oh, I agree 100%. You know, I've never been a fond advocate of service contracts, but most manufacturers, especially when it comes to laundry, they're 1 year parts and labor. And if 2 to 3 years into that machine you have a board issue, in some cases it's going to be more than half of what you paid for that machine. So it's like, okay, what do? Do I stick that extra money into it and only have it last another couple of years? Or do I bite the bullet and go out and buy another one?
That is exactly what you told me.
Yeah.
It's like planned obsolescence, isn't it?
Kind of. It's, you know, you can go out and spend $1,000 for a washer and maybe make it to 5 and 6 years, or you can go out and buy a washer for half that price, and when it breaks in 5 to 6 years, buy another one, and you're still money ahead.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, that answered my question.
All right,
Hi,
buddy.
Kev. Thanks.
Yep. You have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
So it's so interesting, that whole philosophy of planned obsolescence. But my question is this.
Yes.
If I buy a $500 washer or I buy a $1,500 washer, are my clothes going to come out any cleaner?
Well, you know, the story on it was I always was a top load washer guy. Dying
my
a heart.
wife. That's why I have one.
And then my dependable care Maytag took a dump on me, and it was to the point where I'm not going to fix it. It's almost 25 years old, and I'm going to get it into the front load washers, kicking and screaming, but I'm going to get into it. I think it's the best investment I have ever made. I mean, I shouldn't be talking about it, but I am very happy with my front load washer. And why is because when I go to take my towels out of that washer and I go to put it into the dryer, instead of my dryer having to run an hour plus to get them dry, maybe 30 minutes at most.
What, does a front loader spin differently than a top loader?
Yes. The ability to extract the moisture out of those clothes is so much more efficient than a top load washer.
And what about the amount of water used to wash?
Well, I cheat. I use an extra rinse cycle because, you know, when you use that towel the third day and you get a little bit of an odor to it, the odor that you're getting in that towel is the soaps that haven't been rinsed out. So hitting that extra rinse guarantees me that when I take that dryer out, I'm not going to have the residue from the soap that goes into that dryer, that when I go to use my towel the third day, it's still fresh. But, yeah, there are some people that say their clothes don't come out clean in a front load. But there's an awful lot of people that say, I really do like that front load washer.
Well, my late wife, Linda, was like that. We had a Neptune for a long time.
Yes, you did.
She thought the clothes came out gray.
Yep.
And so when it finally went, we bought a top load, a very simple, relatively simple top load. And she was thrilled. Clothes come out white. It has a big agitator. It's not one of those without the agitator, and she was thrilled.
And
I have to be honest. I mean, it's easy for me to use.
Even with you being so short, that's what I would think you'd want a front load washer.
No problem.
Oh, you have a step stool. That's right.
No problem.
And detergents have changed. When you're going to do towels, you should do it with hot water.
All right, hold that thought.
Okay.
We'll come back and talk about it with Ernie Krieger. you have any questions about appliance repair, give us a call here on the Art Lewis Show.
Ready to save big at the...
And we're back with you here on the Art Lewis Show, talking to Ernie Krieger about appliance repair. And you can give us a call if you have an appliance giving you trouble. Give us a call at 989-752-6111 and pose your question to Ernie. We'll either fix it or destroy it, one or the other.
In some cases, we actually fix things.
Yeah, you can still do that, can't you?
You can. Yeah, you can. I mean,
all right. So,
yes.
Before the break, you had mentioned detergents and all of that, and I had a question. In the old days, not that long ago, no such thing as pods. You bought a box of detergent, you bought a gallon of bleach, you bought all these separate things.
In your days, you were using a washboard.
That's right. And so the question is, now all the major manufacturers
pods
have gone to these pods. You can still get the other, but they've gone to these pods. Are they any good, and are there problems with them, or are they worth their money?
I would say in most cases it's been a plus because they're measured.
Yeah.
Depending on how grubby your family is, you may use 2 pods, or you may get away with just 1. You know, you watch some commercials and they're always throwing 2 into a machine. Where
I'm a soul grubby, so I just use 1.
There you go. There you go. You're a 1-pod man.
And the plastic that they're in
it dissolves.
Right?
Yeah. There's no residuals.
No residuals of anything.
No. Yeah. And I would say, depending on what brand you're loyal to, you don't usually change things. But
I bought Purcell just because it's what I got in my hands.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And we're a Tide family.
Tide, yeah.
But as long as you're happy with the final product that comes out of it, that's it. I mean, some people will add the Oxy to the machine, especially if you're doing
This is
whites.
supposed to have some of it in it.
Yes, it does. It does.
All right, let's talk to Mark in Saginaw. Mark, you're on with Ernie Krieger.
Yeah, quick question. I've got a gas dryer. It's not heating up. Everything's working. It hasn't been used for a while, but it's not heating up. Is there a pilot light that's got to be lit on that?
No. What brand is it?
Well, you asked me a question. I'm going to have to find out.
Because
hold on for a second.
Okay. Depending on the manufacturer, there might be a thermal fuse that went out on you.
It is a...
Yes.
Kenmore.
Okay, so it was built by Whirlpool. And how old is it about?
Well, it's not my house. It's my mother's house. So it was installed 2004, 2005, something like that.
So if you're game on pulling the dryer away from the wall and taking the back off of it, as you're looking at that dryer, what I want you to do is identify what's called a thermal fuse. It'll be about 1.5 inches in length. It'll be white, and there'll be 2 wires with small spade connectors on. What I would have you do, again with the dryer unplugged, take those 2 wires off, kind of clip them together, plug the unit back in, and fire it up. If indeed the gas comes on, then you know the thermal fuse is bad. What you're going to do next is you're going to check that airflow to make sure that the reason why that fuse opened isn't because the ductwork either outside the louvers aren't, clear, or somewhere within the ductwork it's gotten restriction because it's built up with lint.
Yeah, let me just interrupt for a second. If you're calling in, just let it ring. We'll get it answered as quickly as we can.
So on your dryer, that thermal fuse is why the heat's not coming on.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm old school. If I don't know anything about electricity or plumbing, I hire somebody that does. So you guys still come out and fix it, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's I thought it might be a quick, like I got a gas fireplace. It's got a
A thermocouple?
Pilot light on it, yeah. Okay, so I'll get a hold of you, and then you can come and fix it. How's that sound?
Sounds like a plan. Appreciate the call.
Okay, thanks. Where are you located now?
We're right on Bay Road. We're between Godwin's and Jenny's Party Store. We've been there
I know where you're
a
at.
long time.
Okay.
Actually, when we moved in there, Art had hair.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Not black hair.
Bye-bye.
But hair.
Yeah, bye.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll hear from Terry Henney, and then we'll be back to talk to Bill and Jim when we return.
What's the most important part of a return?
We are broadcasting today from the Tuscola County Fair. Very happy to be here because today, Fair Day, is the Youth Auction Day. And our broadcast today is brought to you by the folks at the Frankenmuth Credit Union, who are a proud sponsor of the Tuscola County Fair. Now, the credit union is dedicated to supporting the area youth that participate in county fair livestock auctions like the one here in Caro. That's why Frankenmuth Credit Union is awarding $10,000 in grants to more than 133 applicants who raised animals for their county fairs. What a great opportunity to support the young people. What a great opportunity for you to be a part of a lot of fun. Bring the family. The kids will enjoy the animals. They'll enjoy the midway. Pay one price admission. All events are included. All evening shows start at 7 o'clock. And tonight and tomorrow night, there are going to be big shows in front of the grandstands. It's all a part of the Tuscola County Fair, the 143rd annual division, right here at the Caro Fairgrounds. More reports coming up next hour.
Now in studio, the Art Lewis Show with Ernie Krieger from Ernie Krieger Appliance Service with us. And let's see if we can run these three calls. Bill is in Caro. Bill, you're on with Ernie. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ernie, thanks a lot for all the years. You helped me out several times with all the parts I needed. Either
Good.
I picked them up, we talked about it over the phone, we got it figured out, and I got the part from you. So anyway, I just like to say I got you beat on a microwave. I got an old tap in here. I just looked it up, 1980, September, manufacturing date.
Good for
Still
you.
works terrific.
We shouldn't be talking about it.
I know, it'll break tomorrow. I was going to say that.
And you won't be able to fix it.
Awesome.
Well, I fixed it once. The timer went out, and it was a nightmare. It's one of those old mechanical timers.
Sure.
It's almost like working on a clock movement.
Yep.
And I put it all back together, got it done, went back, turned it on. What the heck? The doggone knob flopped right down. Go back to where I was working at. There was a split washer that were laying on the table, and that's the first part you had to put in. Oh, my God. I'm not taking that back apart again. Went to the garage, found a lock washer with a split washer, took it on a die grinder, ground it down, put it on the outside. It works terrific. Every now and then it gets loose. You just take back of your hand, push it in. It's tight. That has been working for, I couldn't tell you how long.
Very good.
My kind of guy.
Excellent.
So, but I just thought that sense of humor there. You were telling me about your microwave situation, and I just happened to look. I said, this is 1980, so I think I got you beat by a little bit.
Yes, you did.
All right. Excellent.
Thanks for the call,
thanks
buddy.
a lot for all yours, Ernie. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye. Next
Bye-bye.
up is Jim in Bay City. Jim, you're on with Ernie. Good morning.
Yeah, I got a question. How efficient are the new dryers, clothes dryers?
They're good.
The reason I'm asking because my wife keeps bugging me. We have a 1967 Maytag avocado green. It's been running forever.
Yeah.
We've gone through about 4 or 5 washers since, but that dryer keeps running and running. And I can see why the wife wants to get rid of it because it's avocado green. But she says the new ones are so much more efficient. Is she wrong, or is what's up with that? Should I keep that and keep running that thing, or just get a new one?
How important is your life in that household? How long you been married?
Well, that's a good question. I got 57 years with that same lady.
Well, then,
happy wife is happy life.
Exactly. So if she wants a new dryer after all these years, you better be looking for a new dryer. But you won't find another avocado green.
And
I know.
Efficient-wise,
yes,
they're relatively close.
The drum size on the dryer you have right now is a lot smaller than what you're going to get. The capacity on the new dryers today are a lot larger. As far as the amount of BTUs of heat, you probably have more heat, but you have more airflow. Your old dryer, I would make sure you double check all your venting, because the venting's probably original from when you bought that avocado green dryer, because you need to have a good vent in order for today's dryers to work.
Okay, well,
there you go.
You're going shopping, my friend.
Have fun,
Your
Jim.
wife is- hey, thanks a lot. I enjoy your show every morning. Keep
Thank
up
you.
the good work.
All
Take
right,
care.
take care.
Bye-bye now.
Goodbye.
And we go to Saginaw. We talked to Eric this morning. Eric, you're on with Ernie Krieger. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
We're great. What can we do for you?
Good. Hey, I live in an old farmhouse. I think I've been here 17 years, and there is a gas fireplace in one of the rooms that I would like to use, but I would like to have it inspected first. Is that something that you handle, or can you point me in the right direction?
No, I don't get into fireplace.
I would think maybe a heating and cooling contractor.
You might try calling Answer Heating and Cooling, or is there a bottle gas company around, like Faro?
That I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, either one of those, and I'd probably go after an LP company and have them come out if they have service available.
Even though it runs on natural gas, but a bottle gas company would still be able to check it.
I would think so, but I could be wrong. But again, a call to somebody like Answer Heating and Cooling.
Okay. I wasn't really sure if a fireplace falls into the heating and cooling. That's kind of why I was putting off calling them.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to make a phone call. They might be able to give you a better direction of where to go.
I would think a gas-operated fireplace is going to be similar to what a gas-operating furnace is going to do in terms of pilot and off and on and stuff.
You know, the other place I might think about calling is somebody like McSood.
Oh, yeah.
That does sell.
Yeah, they sell them.
And so they may have a name of somebody in the area that they can refer you to. So maybe at the top of the list, McSood would be who I'd tell you to call.
All right. Are you there, Eric?
Hopefully he heard what we said.
Hopefully he heard, because he's gone.
All right.
All right. So anyway,
yes.
I lost my train of thought now. I was
going
to talk
gosh.
about that.
I won't talk about who you resemble, but you have more color and you're not orange.
That's true. That's true. Well, listen, if you couldn't get your questions answered this week, Ernie will be with me next week, but we're going to be up at the state park.
Yes, big week, Waterfowl Festival.
Waterfowl Festival the following weekend.
Yes.
We'll be there on Friday, the festival's Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
So we'll be broadcasting up there next Friday.
Twice in less than 2 weeks. Can you handle that?
Scary. Oh, scary.
It'll be fun.
I was trying to, we've talked about this before. We go back to the 70s.
Yes, we do.
D'Ambrose.
Yes.
I remember the microwave shows at the event center downtown. And that's where your leftover recipe came from.
Mm-hmm.
And those were fun times.
Oh, we miss Gene Riley.
Yep, we do indeed.
He was a great friend.
Yep, indeed. And boy, could I put you in the microwave. Thank you, Gene.
And I can't even begin to tell you how many amount of microwaves we sold over the years.
I had one.
And
I had one for 30 years and then donated it to, was it Mayor's House or one of those? And they still used it for a long time after that.
I still have people that have Amanas that are still in today's use.
All right. Ernie, we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, I'll
Thanks
be there.
for being with us.
You're welcome.
Bye. What's your number? Give everybody your phone.
793-3711.
There you go.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
1978. What a great...
Art Lewis Show for today. We'll be back Monday with lots more. We'll also be on remote tomorrow. We will talk to you from the Munger Potato Festival. See you then. Stick around for Focus.
Broadcasting from the